Please welcome to the stage, Chair of Capital Connect Series, Brian Randolph.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is the Capital Connect series. Today is Tuesday, October 18th. My name is Brian Randolph. I'm the managing principal of BR Wealth Management and the chair of the Capital Connect series. Before we get started today, I want to first of all, like we always do, thank our sponsors, Alturas, Idaho, First Bank, Wilson Sonsini, supporting sponsors, BR Wealth Management, the fine folks at Deloitte, KeyBank, Perkins Coie, and St. Luke's. Other housekeeping things, a couple quick reminders. The Idaho Technology Council's Hall of Fame Gala is coming up on November 2nd at the Boise Center. The 2022 Hall of Fame inductee is Steve Appleton, and the keynote speaker is Governor Dirk Kempthorne. So we're very excited about that. It's going to be an amazing evening. We're also excited to be back in person this year, which, if you've been to the last couple of years, you know it's been a little touch and go, but we're in person. Should be a great event. More information is available on the ITC website. Other things to know, the next Capital Connect series after this one will be November 15th, and we're proud to feature Rachel Wilson, the co-founder and CEO of BoldHue. You can join us either online or in person. We have some availability here, some seats. It'd be great to see y'all, and you can register for that through the ITC website event page. Today, we're joined by the co-chairs of the Boise Entrepreneur Week, Tiam Rastegar, the executive director at Trailhead, and Nick Krabs, the chief community officer at VYNYL. So welcome to the stage, gentlemen. Thanks for having us. Yeah. Gentlemen, thanks for having us. Thanks for coming out. Let's start with just a quick background on the both of you. I know you have millions of social media followers. Everybody knows who you are. You're big celebrities here in the Valley and regionally, nationally too. But give us a little background on who you are. Give us a 30-second elevator pitch of your bio.
Sure. So I don't know if I have millions of followers. That's pretty pretty extreme for my humble followers on the interwebs. But I'm Nick Krabs. I'm one of the partners at VYNYL, which is a software firm here in town. And for the last 7 years, I've been able to co-chair Boise Entrepreneur Week, formerly Boise Startup Week. And so we are really excited to partner with that event and with Trailhead over many years now, work on that event. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, as far as myself goes, Tiam Rastegar. I was born in Iran, raised in Germany, moved to Idaho about 23 years ago. Finished high school here, went to Boise State, went back there for grad school, so you can say that I bleed blue. I've worked at several, local tech companies and startups, all the way from manufacturing to the vacation rental management business, and I've been at Trailhead for going on 5 years now.
Very good, very good. So, Nick, you had mentioned this was originally Boise Startup Week. Tell us a little bit about the back history of BEW, Boise Entrepreneur Week.
Yeah.
How it got started, what the goals were.
So the very first year that Boise Startup Week ran, the municipality, the city, ran it. So that was under kind of Dave Beater, and Nick Miller had worked there. And really humble beginnings. VYNYL sponsored that event, and we just kind of participated as attendees. I think they had about 175 people show up to the very first Startup Week, so very, very humble. And the next year I had sent an email, and I basically said, hey, like, a city probably isn't the right leader for this, and you really should find an entrepreneur, and you should really involve the entrepreneurial community as the organizers instead of just trying to build something for them, right? And if you open your mouth about
exactly right.
volunteer
exactly
things, you end up getting to run it. So I was asked if I would run it, and originally I said 2 years. I run it for 2 years. And so we ran it for 2 years, and the second year I got introduced to this guy here in 2018, and we co-ran 2018 together, which would have been my last year. And I said, you know what, I'll come back and I'll run one more with you, and then one more, and then another one, and here we are.
Momentum is something, isn't it?
Yeah, and so what's fun about that story is, going back to the city's, first year, 175 attendees, a half dozen events. The last in-person one we ran of Boise Startup Week still at the time was in 2019. We had 3,400 attendees, about 200 partners that worked on the event with us. And this year is a very similar scale. Obviously, we're still doing registration right now and people are signing up, but well over 200 partners, probably about 250 people build this event over the course of 6 months, including
Right. So BR Wealth Management will be a sponsor this year.
Sponsor this year. So, and Jay even is running the dodgeball tournament. He's going to show up and be a judge. So it really does take a whole community. That's the vision for it. Is it's a community-run and led event. And there's a ton of folks that work with ITC and partner with ITC that also come and partner with BEW.
Very good. Talk a little bit about the goals. What's the purpose?
Yeah.
Why a Boise Entrepreneur Week or a Boise Startup Week in the founding?
So I guess let me explain the name change. I think that kind of plays to the purpose very well. So 2 years ago, we had been kind of looking, at now 5 years of history of the event. And we're like, okay, what are we doing well? What are we not doing well? It was in the pandemic years where we're like running virtual events. So we kind of had this moment to pause and think about what we've been doing at that point for 5 years. And we realized that Idaho has an incredibly strong entrepreneurial community, but it doesn't necessarily have a super strong startup community. It had started to emerge. It was still kind of maybe a foreign concept to some folks, but we've always had a really strong entrepreneurial community here.
Agreed.
I would say that's in our blood in Idaho.
Agreed.
And the difference between those two things is really some semantics, right? There's about how you fundraise, what kind of fundraising might be available to you. And we had been doing kind of general entrepreneurial content almost the whole time. It wasn't specifically startup content. And so from that, we decided, let's widen the tent poles. Let's try and speak to a wider audience. Let's try and speak to the audience that we know is strong and growing here in Idaho and change the name to Entrepreneur Week. So then what's the point, right? What's the point of the event? The point of the event is to celebrate entrepreneurship, to celebrate the entrepreneurs who are doing great things here, and then try and support the ones that are coming up behind us. So that's why we run 5 different pitch competitions with cash prize money, why there's a lot of resources around fundraising, about talent acquisition, about selling your products in new market, right? It's trying to bring the content that's core to entrepreneurs being successful right to the forefront and giving you a week to engage with it.
Very nice. Very nice. Tiam, you, in your work at Trailhead, you see a lot of these type companies, both kind of startups and those have already gotten some traction. Talk a little bit about Trailhead's relationship with BEW.
Yeah, so BEW in a roundabout way fell into our lap. We weren't the organizers or the primary merchant of record, if you will. It wasn't our program to begin with. But over time, it turned out that it was actually a really good fit for what our mission is. So our mission at Trailhead is to help entrepreneurs succeed. And Nick sort of alluded to it. Boise Entrepreneur Week it's part breeding ground for the next generation of entrepreneurs, and it's part celebration of those entrepreneurs who have put their stake in the ground and built something that's worth celebrating. Part of the reason we work with high school students and college students as well at Entrepreneur Week is we believe in planting seeds. And so now that Entrepreneur Week is formally a Trailhead program, it is our marquee program in terms of size, scope, and impact that we get to make in the community. The pitch competitions that Nick mentions, they're really just a mechanism for us to award cash to entrepreneurs. Cash is really like oxygen to them.
Sure.
It buys them time. And as we think back, when Nick and I sit down and we talk about previous year's winners, it's something Nick keeps bringing up to me. He goes, those who won 7 years ago and everybody else since are still in business today. And that's pretty atypical for entrepreneurship or small business in general.
Right.
But we kind of look at that and we think to ourselves, we're doing some things right. Maybe we're good at picking the winners. And it's not, when I say we don't really pick the winners. We sign up judges to do that. So we're removed from that decision.
Sure.
But it also speaks to the strength of this local community's grit to execute. As soon as you give entrepreneurs a community to call home, a sense of belonging, infrastructure to get them access to the various sources of capital, I think we do really well here in the Treasure Valley and in Idaho. I think it's when entrepreneurs are in silos and they feel like, it's them against the world and there's no one to support them. That's when they're set up for failure. And so, Nick and I, we've traveled, we've seen other startup weeks, a few across the country. And, part of our takeaway from those was they were cool. We liked attending them and we liked the content, but it didn't quite feel authentic to us, meaning to Idaho and to Boise. And we wanted to tailor Startup Week to us, to Idaho and Boise. And so in a roundabout way, I think Entrepreneur Week, the name itself, is just much more authentic to the pedigree of entrepreneurs that you find here locally.
Totally agree. Totally agree. You mentioned we've done this for 7 years now. You've had a number of repeat attendees. Can you name some names? Can you drop some history on us? Your proudest moments or some alumni companies have come through the pitch competitions.
Yeah, listen, Tiam said that every single one of our previous pitch competition winners is still in business today. We're really proud about that. We talk about that a lot as kind of a reason why we're supposed to keep doing it, right? It's because it is working out. I just this morning sat and did an interview with Sam and Eric from EarthBev. EarthBev makes a Switchel. It's a drink, a non-alcoholic drink that you can buy on the store shelves of Albertsons right now, and they're finally ramping into Albertsons stores, which is part of their prize package that they win with Trail Mix. Rob Pilecki, who many of you know, the washi guy. Mm-hmm. He is famous on LinkedIn. I'm not, but he is. So, he was one of our winners, and he always makes me laugh because, again, Tia mentioned that we're pretty removed from the judge deliberation. And that year, I sat and was listening to the judges deliberate, and they finished, and I'm like, guys, a toilet seat, you're killing me. That's what's going to win Entrepreneur Week this year. I'm like, all right, here we go, toilet seat. I got to get on board, right? And the truth is, he's a fantastic entrepreneur. He crushed his interview, and he did a really good job pitching on stage. He deserved to win. And now he's gone off to do, great stuff. But so, we've had a bunch of really great winners. I think a lot of people here know Joni with Snacktivists, and so she was our very first Trail Mix winner.
As you talk about pride, I think something that Nick brought up, one of our pitch competitions, Trail Mix, the real grand prize, other than the cash, which cash is nice, I said it's oxygen to them, is they win shelf space at Albertsons. So when we walk into an Albertsons and we see EarthBev on the shelves, we see Orchestra Provisions, founded by Kate Started, on the shelves, that just fills us with immense pride. And you caught me at a good intersection, I guess. I'm meeting with all of the pitch finalists this week, and I did all of last week, and I'm coaching them before their big, their big gig on stage on next Thursday. And this is really gratifying, this part of the process, because I get to, we do all the grunt work. This is a beast to put on, and we do it gladly. But it's moments like these when I get to sit down with the pitchers and listen to their pitch and get shoulder to shoulder to them, right next to them, and trying to put their best version of themselves in the pitch deck on stage that day. Just a quick shout out here. One of our committee members who helps me coach these finalists, his name is Corey. He's the founder at Lumini. Mm-hmm. Lumini won Entrepreneur Week in 2018. And yesterday, when he was coaching one of the founders, he was quick to remind them that he won $10,000 and not 50, and that the $10,000 he won in 2018 really helped them bridge the gap and get into their next competition and to the next cohort of opportunities to win cash. So he, for me, it's always interesting hearing it from them. Like, what does this mean to you? How did you use the money? And like, what got you to where you are today? And what better way to hear a former winner tell a contestant the week before the event, like, this is what I went through, this is what I did with the money, and oh, by the way, you're winning 5x what I won. You should feel pretty good about yourself.
It's good. It's good that it's been able to grow.
We see that pretty frequently, even last year. So last year's pitch competition winner, which is the same one that Illumini won, was Adam Stock and Cargo Made. So he built a strap that is on a motor and will tie down your loads on big trucks or small trucks. And last year we had worked out a deal with the Bloomberg TV show, the 2-Minute Drill. So it's on Bloomberg TV and Amazon Prime. And the deal was that our winner would get to go on their TV show and pitch again. And then Adam went on the 2-minute drill and won. And so it was like really gratifying. If you guys know Adam, he's from like Rexburg, Idaho, and like, he's definitely Idaho, and we adopt him. We believe in what he's doing. And so it was kind of funny to see all these like really slick pitches from, kind of coastal markets, and then
Sure.
Adam up there being his authentic self and just crushing it. So this year, they've now said that they're going to do a BEW exclusive episode, and they're going to have 5 of our finalists. So we're guaranteed to have a winner this year.
Fantastic. That's excellent. I think that speaks to, Tiam, your point about turning this into very Idaho-centric, make it our own. And that's concrete evidence of the support you give to entrepreneurs, the advice, how to hone your pitch, not just for this, but for future competitions they might enter, other capital providers when they go in front of them to continue to grow their business. Talk a little bit more. Capital is certainly on this series. Capital Connect is a big part of what we do. We're very interested in that. But give us a layout of what the week's agenda kind of looks like in terms of, there's some speakers, there's obviously a pitch competition, there's some fun. Give us kind of a typical week for BEW.
Well, so I'll start by saying that we don't have long enough to talk about all of it.
Sure.
It is impossible.
Well, you want them to attend.
Yes.
See for yourself,
yes.
Right?
It is impossible to go to all of BEW if you want to. That was designed that way on purpose. It's kind of like Tree Fort. You got to pick your own adventure because you cannot go to every session. So kind of running just high level from Tuesday to Friday. We kick off the weeks with multiple sessions and med tech and the Start and Grow track, which is kind of early stage conversations about operating your business. The Capital track runs on Tuesday as well.
Which is a new track. The Capital track in itself was prototyped last year, and it's become its own track this year.
And then we close out the evening with 2 kind of marquee social events, which is our Women in Power event. We have a speaker flying in, Adriana Graziano, is that right? And she is going to talk about her organization called Women in Tech, Girls in Tech, excuse me, that's in Colorado, and share with us her story about growing that organization. And so, and then also we have the Founder War Stories, which is actually an event that predates Entrepreneur Week. Jeff Reynolds ran Founder War Stories at the Egyptian Theater 10 years ago, and every year we do Founder War Stories as part of Entrepreneur
somehow
Week.
We rope them in every year.
Yeah. And so that's going to be at the Olympic, and then right afterwards we have a DJ, and that's the end of our evening on Tuesday. So there's a lot on Tuesday, a lot of sessions on Tuesday. Wednesday, we open up with a youth track, so we have an entire morning for high school students. They come and do a reverse pitch competition. They have some content that they work with. I think we have 300-400 high school students that come down this year that will do that. And then Wednesday afternoon, again, several more sessions, a couple keynotes that run on a Wednesday. Our VR bash is on Wednesday night, so this is at Strangelove. VR in a bar is maybe the more descriptive way to say it.
Hence the name.
We have a founder invite-only dinner that we're doing this year, where we're going to pair funders up and founders up and give them a chance to network in kind of a controlled environment at BEW. We had originally planned on like 25 people come to that event, and we keep getting like messages from VCs or capital providers from somewhere outside of Idaho.
We're joking on the way here. All you have to do is make an event invite only.
And all of a sudden people will fly in for it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's a great one, especially if you're a founder here in town that's kind of at that place where it's time to start fundraising and you really need to shake some of those hands. We've kind of abstracted that out this year. Thursday is really our fireworks day of the event. If there's only one day you can go to BEW, make it Thursday. Both our main pitch competition and Trail Mix will run on that day. Trail Mix is a lot of fun. Whether you're an entrepreneur or just someone who likes food, you can show up at Trail Mix and like sample all these food products that both are the finalists and just the applicants who didn't make it to the finals. And then Trail Mix will go off. So another food product pitch competition. And then our block party is Thursday evening. Again, a couple bands are playing. We'll hand out all the big checks. It's a chance to just relax and hang out. So there really is a lot going on. I mean, that was 4% of the events that we're doing right
If you're picking up on the trend there, Brian, I mean, we do like to party. There's a lot of concerts and parties. And that's really, again, this is about building community. It's about spending time with each other, building relationships. A lot of these pitch competitions are really just the beginning of a conversation, the beginning of a relationship between founders and providers of capital, whether it's financial capital, institutional capital, human capital, you name it. But back to your question about capital, we are in totality giving away over $300,000 this year, which is by far the most we've ever given away. A chunk of that $300,000, and we're pretty proud of this, is going to be an offer via Safe Note by our partner called Kinetic Ventures. So they are using their own AI tool called VYNYL. They are getting access to all of the applicants globally across Entrepreneur Week from all of the competitions. And it's like a Myers-Briggs for founders that they use. And they're going to totally independently, at their own discretion, choose their own winner and make them a $100,000 offer for some equity in return. And so that's a first for Entrepreneur Week. Again, we are distancing ourselves we're not party to that agreement. We're more of the middleman, we're the facilitator, make sure that happens. But I mean, think about it. Next year, we could repeat this, and we have the 2-minute drill partnership. There could be more VCs that join that bandwagon, that Kinetic Ventures sort of starting for us and deploying capital in that way. Because when we deploy capital, it's non-dilutive.
Right.
And it's really a prize. And so, I think as an event and as a community, we're kind of growing up into adolescence and into go-go mode. And I think this is just the beginning of the next phase of Entrepreneur Week.
Fantastic. You talked a little bit about Kinetic. Now's probably a good time as any. A couple of shout outs for your sponsors. You want to shout out some big sponsors who help make this happen? Some of the key staff that's involved?
Yeah. I mean, first I'll say that this year BW has 109 partners that have come on board to help fund.
Amazing. Truly a community.
Which is an excuse we can't keep them straight.
Yeah, so it truly is a community. But there's a couple that go above and beyond, right? It's beyond just sponsoring. I mean, they volunteer, they show up whenever they're asked. A big shout out to the Idaho STEM Action Center, a huge shout out to Zion's Bank, Albertsons, VYNYL. There's a handful of sponsors that really do kind of put their shoulder to the rock with us and push it uphill. So, a huge shout out to those sponsors.
We also stand on the shoulder of giants here. The way we organize Entrepreneur Week, it's sort of mimicked after Treefort, and Nick mentioned them earlier. We organize ourselves into tracks. And instead of Nick and I being the arbiter of all things for every single track, which we're not the experts in all of them, we recruit experts in our community, and we assign them as co-chairs of various tracks. This year, again, we have a few new tracks, and in terms of shout outs, I think the MedTech track is something I'm really excited about.
Absolutely.
In a former life, I worked on medical device development, and I'm keenly aware of the opportunities and impact medical device and bio-life sciences can have on a community. So I'm super stoked for MedTech, and Rourke Eakley from Salzer is a co-chair there, also Molly Zimmer from St. Luke's. So again, two very subject matter experts who would do a much better job at any kind of content creation than Nick and I could. The same goes for the Capital track. So Alturas, who I know is also a sponsor of the Capital Connect series. Maggie from Alturas is running the Capital track in partnership with Matt Price. Shout out there. I know we have a Futurism track, William Potts from Power Engineers. We got Kenton Lee from The Shoe That Grows, and Jason Marmon from US Energy. And I can't believe I'm remembering everybody's name here. This is great.
You're doing really good. I'm not going to stop you.
I'm missing one. Home Building for Innovation. Why don't you help me out on that one?
Home Building was another track, right?
Yeah.
Well, and Home Building is a really interesting one because BSU came to us with a pitch competition called Hacking for Home Building, which is a reverse pitch competition around really like heavy science home building issues. So we're talking about, how do you design a truss that's stronger, or how do you make laying subflooring faster, right? Like, neither one of us are experts in either of those things. So they came to us with a reverse pitch competition. We ran it a year ago, alongside them. It went really great. Forbes picked up the story about the winners, did a whole thing about home building and innovation in the Boise market, and we realized that we've always tried to speak to the issues that are going on in our community, right? And so this year we ran a whole track for home building innovation. Levi Smith with Franklin Building Supply, CEO over there, is the one who works on that alongside James Keating from INL, which we thought was a really interesting pairing because you wouldn't necessarily think INL about home building, but INL has so much IP and heavy science IP that they sit on that we're like, this is perfect. I mean, half of these things could be integrated in building a house. Yeah. We don't even think about it, Maybe we'll put nuclear energy in all of our homes. No, they wouldn't sign up for that. I'm kidding.
No, not yet.
So anyway, so that's a really great one. And those are our new tracks, really capital.
And we just highlighted the new tracks.
Yeah, capital, medtech, and home building innovation. Each one of these tracks we prototype in some form or fashion before we run them. We always like to see, what is the community. Is the community going to respond to this? Is it something they're interested in? Is it really speaking to the issues of what's going on in our community? And those ones, of course, all three was a resounding yes, which is why it's now in the program. Yeah.
But to run with this name of the Capital Connect series, the entire capital track is really intended to connect those who are seeking capital to those who are providing it. Now, this can be, these can be banks, angels, VCs, private equity. We're really not discriminating in terms of what kind of capital it is, sure. Which then also tells you the kind of folks that are showing up who are seeking capital. Not all of them are ripe for a venture capital round and they're going to scale and exit. Some of these are brick and mortar kind of businesses, lifestyle businesses who are more prone to pursue a bank loan. So the capital track as a whole is also going to have a talk about that very topic. Is what kind of business are you, and based on that, what kind of capital should you pursue? What's out there for you in terms of products?
And I think we talk about this every once in a while, but capital is an interesting discussion when you're talking about early stage businesses, because I don't know exactly the statistic, but I think it's something like 3 or 6% of capital that goes into businesses is VC. The rest is coming from either debt financing or a whole number other of mechanisms.
30% is credit cards.
It's credit cards, right?
So by
far, we should invite Visa to come talk.
Right. Sure.
No, I mean, jokes aside, the point that I'm really making is that most businesses, in fact, are not right for VC, especially early stage VC. And so I think some founders, especially first-time founders, get a little confused on how best to go ask for or what kind of capital they should be looking for. And so that's, again, some of the content that we try and run is really to try and understand what the differences of those are and what's right for you and your business. I just had a conversation today where someone was like, oh, we're going to do a seed round. And I was like, why don't you guys just take out like 30 grand in debt? I mean, you're there. You don't really need a seed round. Like, you're already doing, the revenue that you need to. And so I think sometimes that's great conversations to have. And we try, again, and not be discriminatory about the kinds of capital, because there's a lot of different ways to fund your business.
I think my understanding of this, you're just trying to create an environment where people can connect, right? And whatever stage of business you're at, whatever stage you're looking for, if you're a VC or capital provider, that there's some interaction there. Maybe you're not quite ready, but here's how you might develop. And I think having that really speaks to the ecosystem in and around the Treasure Valley.
And we have great thought leaders here, Brian, who can lead that conversation. We don't have to rely on Shark Tank to influence us as a culture here in Idaho. So we're just elevating those who are doing the work already in our community.
Yeah. Good. Talk to me. What's the future? As this continues to grow and snowball, it's probably hard to steer that as it kind of takes on a life of its own. But from each of you, what do you see as a vision of this? Other than you want to start to slowly disassociate, Nick.
I mean, the truth is that it's always going to be a reflection of what's going on in this community. Whether it's myself, whether it's Tiam, whether it's anyone else who's coming on and volunteering and working with it. I mean, we're one small blip of what it takes to make this event run. I mean, I said there's 250 people that work on it in some form or fashion. So that's my hope for it in the future, is that it always is a reflection of what's going on in our community. Hopefully we're just celebrating exits, in 2 years, right? Like, hopefully that's all we do. We just champagne and celebrate exits. But jokes aside, I mean, that's what it should be. It should be a reflection of what's going on in our community.
And I look at other events or celebrations like 50 to the A. I think Entrepreneur Week is a great funnel into the 50 to the A. So maybe today we'll plant a seed and in 5 years they go and are celebrated 50 to the A, and then they make it to the Hall of Fame, and someday you'll talk to them on this show. You know, my vision really for Entrepreneur Week is one of community, and it could go in any direction. But you know, something that Nick's alluded to over time, events like this really take blood, sweat, and tears.
Sure.
And you just need early on, you need people who take the bull by the horn and get in the right direction, get the right partners onboarded. And in the last 5 years, it's been the two of us who have been supported by our volunteer base, our vendors. And so as I look to the future, you know, Entrepreneur Week is really going to become, you know, a beast of its own, that regardless of Nick or my involvement, and we won't be involved forever, it needs to have the right legs to grow into its full potential. And so I'm kind of looking at it a little bit with a legacy plan in mind. And I'm not resigning this year, if that's where the trend was going, where I was going with it. But I kind of look at it longer term. You know, it's done amazing things in other cities. Mm-hmm. It's done amazing things for us. It's, you know, landed us on the Surge City. I think we landed in 4th place. Mm-hmm. This is 2019 Inc. magazine list of Surge cities, which was just a blip of the kind of attention this can get for our community and our entrepreneurs.
Well, I think there's no doubt that Boise Entrepreneur Week is a roaring success, and I wish you both the best as it continues to grow. Thank you for everything you've done on behalf of the Treasure Valley and Boise in particular. Thank you very much for your time. That is our time for today. Some quick reminders: the ITC Hall of Fame is on November 2nd. Tickets at idahotechcouncil.org. And again, our next Capital Connect series will have Rachel Wilson of Bold Hue. That'll be on November 15th. So tune in. Feel free to join us. It'd be great to have you here. Again, thank you both, gentlemen. Good luck to you.
We'll need it. Thanks for having us.